Yay!
Yay!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 332.
We are officially up there.
We've been officially up there for 330 episodes, so that's just a couple. We're so excited about tonight's episode because we get to celebrate some incredible individuals, one in particular from the crew, from the viewers, from the people who support this channel. Tonight, we're going to be joined by Bryan Sands, who we talk about at the top of every Ginger Runner Live. But tonight, we actually get to have him on the show.
It's a treat.
It's a treat because this last weekend, he did the biggest thing. He ran his first 100-miler. It was sort of a DIY, created himself a big 100-mile route, and he crushed it this weekend. So we want to recognize just the amazingness of this community, the viewers, and the people who support one another in this channel. And tonight we're going to celebrate Bryan, amongst other GR crew members, because there's a lot of people that got up to some crazy stuff this weekend. So our guest tonight is Bryan Sands, who's going to talk to us all about his first 100-miler that he created. I think the name of it was sort of the Halloween 100 is what he called it. But it's 100 miles along the Wabash Trace Trail. And can't wait to find out more. Tonight's show is going to be a delight. So sit back, grab your beverage of choice, and enjoy the show. Here we go.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ginger Runners. I don't think I've ever said hi. Hi.
I am so sorry. It's his first time saying hi, everyone.
Hi. Not very good at it.
First I've allowed you to use that word.
Thank you for letting me try. Welcome, everybody, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 332. Hi. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Mondays to spend a little bit of it with us. We know that this week is a big week for the United States and for everybody. We hope that you were breathing. Just stay breathing, stay afloat here. We wanted to celebrate some individuals tonight on our show. We wanted tonight's show to be positive and full of life and inspiration, and our guest is going to provide that. We've talked about our guest tonight on multiple Ginger Runner Live episodes. He's been a huge supporter of the channel and the community at large, constantly inspiring so many individuals to take on their own challenges and stuff like that. Our guest is Bryan Sands, and this last weekend, he created his own 100-mile event, called it the Halloween 100, ran it, crushed it, completed it.
Spoilers.
Well, I think I spoiled it in the title of the show. Hi! I'm still learning. But along the Wabash Trace Trail, it's a 50-mile out and back. And we get to recognize some members of the community, including Bryan tonight. Bryan's going to be our guest on the show. So we're very, very excited about that. So hi, I'm your host, Ethan. I'm also joined by the wonderful and delightful Kim. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. What's up, everyone? Kim Tashima Newberry here as always. If you're new, welcome. Pop in the chat room and say hello. We are live, so if you have questions for our wonderful guest, Bryan, please ask them there. There's already a ton of questions rolling in.
Great. We love it.
Diego says, sip your drink every time Ethan says hi.
Oh, man. If you do, the show is it's gonna start off with a bang. Because now I know the game. So I can play a hi. Great. Before we introduce our main guest tonight, Bryan Sands, we do have some individuals that we'd like to thank at the top of every show. Is our GR crew, our Patreon supporters. They are the reason that we're able to do Ginger Runner Live, do our reviews, do all of these videos and everything that we do on this channel, including Kim's channel as well. It is because of the GR crew, the Patreon supporters. We just appreciate them each and every week. And we have some really fun stuff going on over there on Patreon right now. We are doing daily live streams. We're up to 180 plus live streams every single day. We have been doing them basically since March. And they've been super fun, super interactive. And this last weekend, sort of as like a proof of product, we were able to go live while Bryan was running his 100-miler, while other members of the GR crew were out there running their races, and we were able to sort of like get some interactivity and participation, and we have a new Discord server as well for Patreon. So many cool reasons to become a Patreon supporter right now. So if you are not a part of it, just head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, and for as little as $1 a month, you can participate in a lot of that stuff. We would love to have you.
I know it's our thing, but like I can't speak highly enough about the actual Discord server that we have for the community.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun, and it really played a huge role, I think, this weekend too.
It brought a huge community from across the world together in real time, following fellow members of the Discord server to kind of follow like Bryan and Deb and other members of the community while they were taking on their big challenges. And it was really neat to sort of see this real-time support of the athletes. So if you are looking for a community that you want to belong to, other fellow runners, you need that inspiration, you need that push or that support, I cannot recommend this community enough. So jump on over to patreon.com/The Ginger Runner. Now, normally we also thank Bryan Sands individually at the top of every Ginger Runner Live because he is such a huge integral part, of our community and on Patreon. We mention him at the top of every show and sort of the things that he's taking on, but we're excited to actually introduce Bryan tonight. So without further ado, let's just get right to that. The man, the myth, the legend, Bryan Sands.
Yay!
Hi!
It's so good to have you on the show again, man.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here again. This is awesome.
Well, today is a really big deal because, one, we're happy that you're awake because I can only imagine you're probably ready to get some sleep, and we appreciate you holding off on that just a little bit longer here. You took on a huge thing this weekend. I sort of want to recognize the accomplishment first, and then we're going to talk into like specifics and stuff like that. So this was your very first 100-miler, correct?
Yeah. Yep. This is my first one ever.
Was it your first attempt at the distance?
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't run 100-mile. The longest before this was the 100K that I tried to run last October that I had to withdraw after 42 miles.
Speaking of that 100K attempt, that's the last time that we saw Bryan in person.
That's right.
And it's crazy that was a year ago. And I have to say that we got to be there in person with you, Bryan, and we got to help crew and pace you and stuff like that. And it was that was one of like my all-time favorite days of last year for sure.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Totally. That's when we got to see you in person and got to see you run and stuff. And so talking a little bit about that event, Javelina 100K last year. Was it 2 days before you broke your toe?
2 days before, yeah. 2 days before I broke my toe on a rock that was in this place that we were staying at that I walked around, I don't know how many hundreds of times before, but just slammed into it while I was carrying laundry and broke it. And so I had to, call my coach and I'm like, can I still run with this? I didn't want to not run because I'd been training for so long. She goes, well, give it a try and see how it feels. So I went for that run on Friday and it was okay. And so I went ahead and started it and I made it through 2 loops of the 100. So I made it 42 miles before I'm like, this just hurts too much. I can't make it. So I had to withdraw. And Kim was nice enough to come out and escort me the last couple of miles back there. So that was very nice, very needed.
I just sort of want to recognize that in and of itself is an accomplishment, starting a race with a broken toe that you've done a couple days before and still managing to conquer 42 miles. So at that point, that's your longest distance up to this last weekend, right?
Yeah, up to that in a single run, yeah.
Did that, because that technically came out as a DNF, and I know that it couldn't have been easy. It's never easy, but did that plant a seed? Did that sort of ignite a fire within you to take on another challenge? Like, when did your mind sort of go, oh, I want to tackle this again, or I want to tackle something bigger? When did that really start?
Probably, a couple days to a week or so after the race. Because during that, I felt like time-wise and how I felt in my training that without the broken toe, I would have finished 100K. I have no doubt with how I felt and, pace-wise and that. I'm like, yeah, I could do it. So I definitely want to give it another try. And then this year with that, I'd kind of been hearing rumors about Cocodona, and I knew they had a qualifier, and I can go through that later. So that's how I kind of ended up from the 100K to the 100-mile pace, or 100-mile race, excuse me.
It's amazing. We're teasing a little bit, talking about the Cocodona, which is a 250-mile event, to remind everyone. Also, going back even further, You ran your first marathon. We mentioned this kind of at the top of every show because it's sort of how Bryan's story began and how it sort of connected him with the community. And it's what sort of continues to inspire both Kim and myself. But you ran your first marathon when you were 50 years old. You trained for your first 50K after that, ran that within the same year, right? Like by the end of the year?
It was the following August. So I ran the 2017 Chicago Marathon. And then it was you that told me, because I was friends with you at that point, you're like, oh, you did the marathon? Now you need to do trail racing. You're going to love trail racing. So you kind of encouraged me to go into that. So the following August, I ran Skyline 50K. That was my first 50K race.
I think, it's just amazing, man. Like what even drew you to the marathon distance? Like there's always something that starts.
Or even just to begin to start running.
Yeah. Like there's always something that starts someone on that running path and for you to get to the marathon distance and stuff like that. So what sort of triggered that? What started you on that path?
Well, about 2 years before Chicago, it was really about getting healthier. I was very overweight. I'd become an insulin dependent diabetic. I didn't feel good. I had low energy. I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to, spend or do as much with my kids. And I don't know what flipped the switch at that point. I'm like, you know what? I need to do something to feel better, to lose weight. I'm going to try running. It's called the Fool's 5K. It was on April Fool's Day that April. And so I'm like, well, let me try training for it. I'll do the Couch to 5K. It was, so I did that and I ran it, and I've never been a runner. I hated doing like the mile at high school and that, but I ran it. I'm like, that was really fun. I liked that. I wonder if I can do more. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me look and see what else. And there was a 10K in there somewhere. And then I trained for I wanted to do a Disney one. So I did the Disney Food and Wine half marathon in 16. I had to take a little time off because I had some foot surgery before that. But I did that in October and loved that too, running through the different, areas of Disney World and Animal Kingdom and Epcot. I'm like, all right, that was a blast. Might as well sign up for a marathon. Well, I'll put my name in for Chicago because I'll never get picked. It's a lottery system. I don't know how many years it takes. And I found out, I think a month or two later, that I got picked. And I was like, oh God, now I really have to do it. So I need to get a coach, well, at least get a coaching plan and start working. So it kind of took off from there. When I was going for the full distance marathon, and I said around that time or even before, I think it was when I was recovering from my foot surgeries when I first found you and your channel. And that got me really hooked into just your group and the community. And then from there, getting great advice on the marathon and all that. And then, I think I just went down the rabbit hole from there. And here I am running a 100-miler over the weekend.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing because we all have these journeys. We all have these either that impetus that gets us into some sort of running, whether it's a 5K. It could be, witnessing someone run a race and you're like, wow, that's really cool. I think maybe I could try that. We know a lot of people that start with the Disney races because they are so accessible and they're super fun. And
that was my first half marathon.
Yeah, they're super fun.
Half, yeah.
Super fun. Yeah. We love it. We love stories like that. And especially with the outcome in this last weekend for you, because that wasn't long ago. That was 2017. You ran your first marathon, a couple years. And here you are crushing your first 100-miler. Before we start digging in a little bit deeper, Kim, of course, has pulled a bunch of questions aside. What do you got?
I'll just remind everyone we are live. So if you have questions for Bryan, pop them into the chat room. Question from Ingen. So you just mentioned getting a coach or a coaching plan or training plan. Ingen asked, Bryan, when did you decide to get a coach and how has that experience been?
Yeah, I decided to start getting a coach for the Chicago Marathon. I'd done some online things for the half marathon, but when I signed up for the full marathon, I'm like, I better get somebody. And I'd started with Jeff Galloway's program. So I used a coach from his program up until maybe August or September. I don't remember. It was one of the times you had David Roach and Megan Roach on your show. And right after that, I'm like, oh, they seem like such awesome people. And I wasn't as happy with the Galloway program as I wanted, at least the coach I was working with in that. So I contacted actually David, and he said, well, Megan would love to take you on. And so she didn't do anything for the full marathon, but right after that, then we started working together and training for the 50K and beyond there.
It's, having a coach is great for so many different reasons. In this case, when you run your 100K with a broken toe, you get to mile 42 and you realize, okay, this is obviously not, there's no way I can finish this. The foot is not feeling right. When you talked to your coach after that, was it immediately like, I want to do that again? I want to get that finish? Or was it, I'm looking at bigger things. What can we do training wise to get to these bigger things despite the setback with the 42 miles versus 100K?
Yeah. The first thing was, let's look and see if we can, do it again. Because we knew that, if it weren't for the broken toe, I would have finished it. And then I would have, I don't know if I would have gone on for longer things or not. But I definitely wanted to do another 100K pretty soon after that, do the training once the toe had healed and that. That's coming up into winter time as well. So I wasn't looking at anything like early spring because I knew it'd be a little harder to train in the snow and that in Iowa. So, of course, I'm doing Cocodona in May, but we'll go into that later. I don't know why I didn't think of that. But I wanted to definitely at least go for another 100K at that point. So that's what I was thinking then.
So let's go ahead and talk about the circumstances leading up to the Halloween 100, your DIY 100-mile event, because I want to kind of get behind the mindset of how this – you're looking at the Cocodona 250. Obviously, things played out this year. So let's sort of get the lineage of how we ended up to where we were this last weekend. Let's go ahead and start like earlier this year, basically.
Yeah. So I've always loved watching YouTube, watching some of the race videos, especially the longer videos like Kerry Ward puts out these, 200-mile race kind of recaps, but they're long form. They're over 2 hours. And so I always found that fascinating. Going, God, people run 100-mile, 200-mile races like that. That just blows me away. And so I was kind of waiting this spring looking to see what I wanted to do. Jamil Khoury with Air Viper Running was teasing some race coming up. He wouldn't say what it was, but he started teasing it. And I'm like, that would be kind of cool. I running McDowell Mountain 50K. I'd run that as well in December of 18 and really enjoyed that race. And then, of course, with Javelina, I'm like, I want to do more of their races. So when he finally came out with what it was the Cocodona 250. So 250 miles starting around, I want to say it was Black Canyon City or somewhere near there, and winding up through Sedona and Prescott and eventually ending up in Flagstaff. And 250 miles, I want to say it's around 33,000 feet of elevation change. And it was an inaugural race. I'm like, that would be so friggin' awesome to do. I mean, when's the chance you ever get to step into an inaugural race?
Right.
So I talked it over with my wife, who still thought I was crazy, but she was very supportive of me.
And Lori is in the chat room right now, also saying,
okay.
That was one of the kids in the background. I'm in another room so I can watch the live stream.
Okay, that's too funny. So I cleared that, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to sign up for this. And one of the qualifications for running the race was they wanted to see that you had at least completed a 100-miler or had done some hiking, like a multi-day hike or something like that you could show. And I hadn't done either. And at the time I was signed up for the 100K again at Javelina. I signed up as soon as it opened again. So I said, well, let me do this. I'll convert that to the 100-miler, do my 100-mile qualification through there, and then go ahead through Cocodona. So I asked them if I could do that, and they said, yeah, that's fine, no problem. So I started preparing for that, and then, of course, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And with that, everything was closed, and, races started getting canceled left and right. And at that point, too, I was like, I don't think I can travel down to Arizona. I'm not sure. So let me check out maybe a few more races local, Hennepin 100, Tunnel Hill. and see if maybe I can get on there where I can drive rather than having to worry about flying out there. And so I was on the waiting list for several of them, but they all eventually canceled. And so as that was coming up, I'm like, all right. Oh yeah, at the time, Casey Lichtide was talking about doing the out and back FKT on Wabash Trace.
Right.
And it's a 62.6 mile trail. And so she was talking about going out and coming back, and she did that, and she set the FKT. I'm like, now that's only 4 hours from home, and I've heard it's a really nice trail. I've talked to a few people that I know at the running shop, and I'm like, that's a beautiful trail. I said, if you're going to do anything, that's a great trail to do. Access is easy. It runs through farmland in that, so it's easy to set up, aid stations at different areas. So I was like, all right. I contacted Casey. That's one of the things I love about this running community. She responds right back and goes, oh yeah, I think that'd be an awesome idea. You definitely need to do that. And then later she goes, well, here are all the aid stations I used, and these are the mileages, and these are the stops. And I'm like, that is so awesome. And so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. That way I know I've got something set up. I can do the qualifier. I can get my 100 miles. And it's right. Actually, I could set it up the same weekend as Javelina. Then I wouldn't have to worry about traveling out there either by plane or driving several days and having to miss too much work doing that. So I went ahead and set that up. And about 2 months ago, the people that run in Cocodona waived the requirement for the race. And I'm like, well, that's nice, but I still need to prove to myself that I can do this. This is over twice as long as I've ever run, and I want to make sure I can do it. If I can do this, if I can prove to myself I can run 100 miles, kind of go through that, see what the setup's like. It'd be my first time running overnight because I've never done that before. And if that worked well, then yes, I can go to Cocodona. So I went ahead and kept the date. And decided I'm going to get it done.
I want to sort of recognize something here because I don't want to gloss over the fact that we're obviously in I hate even saying unprecedented time, but like we're obviously with pandemic and everything that's going on around the world, races being canceled. There is a lot of opportunity to sort of to lack inspiration or to be able to.
Lack of motivation.
Say again?
Lack of motivation.
Yeah, lack of motivation to sort of allow yourself to, I can put off racing till next year, or I can put off these big goals to another time because right now I'm not able to take this stuff on. And it makes perfect sense, and it's absolutely acceptable. I want to recognize the fact that Bryan had setback after setback, and man, you are an inspiration to so many because of this, because you didn't let. You had a goal of Cocodona 250 for 2021. The lack of racing, the lack of ability to get a qualifier certainly was like, well, what am I going to do? It obviously presents itself quite a challenge. Traveling and all that sort of stuff having to be limited, but then also creating your own, sort of finding a solution within the problems of I'm going to create my own event, find a place that maybe is nearby or familiar that I can create the distance that I need it. And challenge yourself mentally. There's something about taking on a challenge like this. And we've seen a lot of people take on really interesting, unique challenges this last year, sort of DIY type things. I can't imagine running 100 miles without that sort of race atmosphere or, a couple hundred other people running it with you, because there is a certain sort of camaraderie where everyone's feeling that pain. Everyone's sort of like, it sucks, right? Yes, it sucks. Okay, good. I feel that sort of bond between other people. Taking it on by yourself is a huge thing. And what you did this weekend, even just towing the line, and thank God none of your toes were broken. Just starting, you are so disappointed in me, and I'm so sorry.
I'm more disappointed that you
laughed at myself,
chuckled after your
because it came out and I was like, that was dumb.
That was good.
But the fact that you even started it, it would have been it's so easy to go, here's a goal. I'm going to set a goal for myself. And then maybe this isn't the weekend. I'm just, I'm not going to do it. It's very easy to do that. Especially in the time that we're in, where sometimes the mental side of things just isn't ready to take on big challenges. There's so many other things to worry about right now and think about. And the fact that you did, the fact that you started and then you didn't give up and you didn't give up and you finished is amazing. We have so many live questions for you, Bryan. I'm going to let Kim take it away, get through a couple of these. And then I want to start talking about specifics because I know the whole day was not without its challenges. And we even have a surprise guest that we're going to bring on here. But Kim, what do we got?
A question from Renee. You kind of answered already half of this question, but Renee asked, how did you choose the location for your 100-miler, which you kind of already answered. And she says, was it difficult to plan such a long course outside of a race? So maybe just talk about the logistics behind it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the trail itself was pretty easy because it being 62 miles, I knew that, all I had to do was running out and back there. The challenge was in, finding where we wanted to set up the aid stations, which roads would work for us. We wanted to stay on either main roads or some that were gravel roads, trying to stay away from just dirt roads or roads that didn't have any shoulders. What we did the Friday before, actually, I went on Google Maps, and so I was using Casey's list of where she used her aid stations. I was pulling them up and kind of at least getting an idea, looking at the pictures, where that would be. And then Friday, Lori and I actually drove to all those places to see how it looks. Like there were 2 aid station areas where it was like, boy, this is a little sketchy. There's really no shoulder, just drops off into a ditch. And yeah, you might be okay during the day, but at 2 or 3 in the morning, we don't want to do that. So that ended up in a few, little longer segments, but nothing too bad. And it also gave us a chance. I think Lori wrote at each stop, okay, this is where, there's a Quonset hut over here, or this is an area with a gazebo. So she had little things that would help remind her so she knew where she needed to park. So I think that was really beneficial, getting out there, seeing the course, figuring out what I needed. And then the other thing, just time-wise, this is the first time I've run overnight. So I had to look, how fast am I going to run? When do I think I might need headlamps and getting warmer clothes on? So just kind of guesstimating when I think I would be at least the first, couple of aid stations, and then going from there.
Yeah, you're right. That actually brings up there's a lot of unknowns. When your longest distance is 42 miles, I guess you haven't had a chance to experiment past sunset or through the night or a distance beyond 50 miles. Like there's a lot of, I guess, unknowns that you just don't know physically or emotionally, and the things that you don't know how to prepare for. So that's a whole interesting byproduct of this as well. Go for it.
Yeah, so just talking about preparations and for when your crew can meet you, Heather Reed in the chat room says, Bryan, what was your pacing plan? I know you've followed the Galloway method before, so I'm curious as to how it played out over 100 miles.
Yeah, I still do run walk. I still think that's the best for me. It's worked well. That's what I've trained with. I'm not fast. Everybody knows that. So I picked kind of a starting pace of about 14 minutes per mile because it was a couple minutes per mile faster than what I usually run when I'm doing training, except for the long runs. And it was just a guess. I'm like, well, I think this might work. I knew 15 minutes per mile, if I never stopped, would be like a 24-hour round, total. 18 minutes per mile came out right to 30. So I knew if I was kind of around there, I'd be close to that area. And that didn't include aid station stops or anything like that. It felt comfortable for me to run that. So it ended up being I think I started at a minute running and then like a minute and a half walking. So I would just repeat that. I've got a timer, so it just beeps. So I just kind of ran that for most of it until I injured my right calf, and then I was slowed down to walking. But it lasted me through 60, 70 miles just doing that, and I felt comfortable with the pace, and I never felt out of breath. So it worked out really well.
I love it.
And a couple more just questions just relating to the route that you picked. Cheryl in the chat room is asking about elevation. Is there elevation in Iowa? And Megan was also asking, Bryan, is the trail mostly paved or dirt, gravel? And maybe you can speak to your favorite parts of the trail.
Yeah. So there is a little elevation. It's not much. I'm just looking here. The total elevation was 3,360 feet. So not too bad. This is a rail trail. So it used to be trains until they paved it over. So there's nothing super steep. There's several gradual inclines. I found out that like out of the last 6 miles or 7 miles, it was like 3.5 miles of this gradual uphill that had like 3 or 4 false summits and really sucked.
Oh.
I'm like, this is a lot easier going the other direction. But walking that at the end, I'm like, God, when does this end? And then as far as the path, it was crushed limestone for the most part. There were a few areas it was dirt. There were 3 paved sections, like 2 to 3 miles each. I did have to run through, not run through the town, but go on one of the roads in the town of Shenandoah to connect the trailheads there. And I have a story for that later. So that was really it as far as the paved parts. But that was one of the other reasons I chose it, because I knew that it was going to be this really nice trail surface, and I thought that's going to be great to start with.
And any favorite sections?
Oh, favorite sections. Yeah, going through some of the small towns was fun. The town of Malvern has a really fun little mini train depot, and they have this giant bicycle statue, so that was really fun and pretty. And just some of the areas, yeah, there are some hills in Iowa down here. It surprised me how many there were. You know, the trail doesn't hit them all, but seeing some of the views, especially when you were higher up and you could look over just these big rolling hills with the fields. Most of the fields have already been harvested, but there were still some and some out there. So those were just beautiful, being up a little bit higher and looking at the scenery around, and the animals. I saw quite a bit of animal life, especially at night. Although I did have, I want to say it was at least an 8 or 10 point buck that stopped like, I don't know, 50 or 60 feet from me in the path and just was staring at me.
Wow.
And didn't move for like 2 minutes, which just blew my mind, because I was upwind of him. He was downwind of me. And I'm like, you've got to smell me. I know I stink. I just kept walking, and he finally took off. But that was really neat. I saw several. I saw a giant hawk coming back that had to be 2.5, 3 foot tall, and he was like 12 feet off the trail, perched in a tree. So that was amazing. Of course, lots of cattle, sheep. Some miniature horses in some places, quite a few possum at night.
Wow.
And they're really odd. They'll just kind of sit in the middle of the trail and stare at you. And then it's like, well, go away. I don't want to go, just go away. And finally they'll just decide and kind of, trundle off. So that was kind of fun. We saw one skunk. Fortunately, it was 40 feet away and going the other direction. So that made me very happy.
I love it. I mean, it just sounds like, yeah, what my head was picturing with this trail being sort of like crushed limestone, sort of, amongst farm fields and near some towns from time to time, but then, maybe more remote in other sections. I'm like, I don't know if there'd be wildlife out there. And then hearing the stories that Bryan talks about with like an 8 to 10 point buck, all the wildlife that crosses the trail just kind of sits there and stares at Bryan. Like, what are you doing in our home? It's surprising. There's a lot more wildlife out there than I would have assumed.
Yeah, and we had a full moon, and so we heard the coyotes howling in the distance a few times. So that was interesting.
I saw a couple of comments in regards to this, and I think this is a great place to sort of start talking about your run. Is the moments of challenge, because with 42 miles being your longest run a year ago, and a lot of your training sort of lining up for this DIY 100. How did you get through some of those mental pockets, and you get to mile 42 and then it's all unknown to you after that point? Is it exciting? Is there fear or anxiousness? How did you kind of get past those hurdles and those points of either remoteness, aloneness, and getting through those miles?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the crew and the group were real helpful. I asked for some advice, and they're like, keep moving forward. Remember, it's just one step at a time. Don't focus on the rest of the distance. Aid station, how many miles do you have left? after the 42, I knew we only had 8 miles. I only had 8 miles to get to the 50. So up to then, it was good. I felt pretty comfortable. The 42 to 50, it was more exciting because it's like, all right, we're going to hit 50 miles. And not only that, I get to turn around. Because at that point, too, I'm like, I got to get to the turnaround soon. And it was dark, so I was looking forward to turning around. Coming back was tough. During the day, I hit like the ideal weather window during the day. It was 60 degrees Saturday. Pretty windy, 15 to 20 mile an hour wind gusts, but they were blowing kind of from my right side and from my back. So it never was in my face or anything, but it felt good with the run. When I hit 50 miles an hour, it was dark. And I had to turn around right into that wind for 50 miles. And it got cold, got down to, I think, 34, 33 degrees and maybe a little even cooler, out in the rural areas, because with the hills and that, you get some pockets of colder air. So running in there, trying to stay warm. I did feel isolated. And at times I felt anxious. I don't think I'd say I felt scared, but being the unknown, I was just like, well, let's just keep going. All right, when's the next aid station? When will I see my crew again? Jessica, who was wonderful, she offered to pace me for that part, at least the out and back from Shenandoah, which is the last part before the turnaround. So just having someone else there that I could talk to and that would see things with me, that was huge. Listening to music or a book tape or something when it was just me. Like you said, looking until the sunrise, thinking, okay, I only have 5 hours to go. And then the sun's going to come up and and that'll be good. I'll get that energy back. So I know I'll have some energy then. So that helped. It was a full moon and it was totally clear. So I even got a little bonus light. And I think that helped too, that at least there was a little more light that I could see around. So it wasn't too bad. Just kind of, focusing on the little goals, the little gains to get me to sunrise. That's really what I did through the night.
I think, again, it's a testament to your mental capacity to be able to take on a distance you've never attempted before alone. You did have a wonderful crew. We actually do have one of your crew members here on our Discord server, and we're going to try to bring her in via voice. If you want to unmute our mic, I'll just let her know that we are talking about her now. So Jessica, I know that you can probably hear our voices now, but Jessica is Bryan's pacer. She is also a member of the crew, and Jessica spent a lot of time driving to this location to help out Bryan, to help pace and that sort of thing. Jessica, if you can hear us, just let us know, and we'll get you onto the show. Maybe we can ask you some questions about what it was like to pace Bryan.
There's a slight delay in the chat room.
Oh, in the chat room?
In the video, like in our YouTube video from her hearing
what
we're saying right now.
I was hoping that she
I don't know if she's listening here or on the show.
We can also vamp, as she is probably watching the show live as well. She'll probably see us.
She also might be taking a nap right now.
She could also be taking a nap because Bryan, talk to us about how you got in touch with Jessica and how this member of the community was able to join you as a pacer.
Yeah, you want to talk about a phenomenal community. I put down, because I didn't have anybody that I knew, so I just put a request in the Patreon group on Facebook. I said, hey, I'm running this. I'm looking for some crew and pacers. Can anybody help? And I had like 5 people respond within an hour saying, oh yeah, I'd love to help. Yeah, I can do that. Count me in if we can make it. I'm like, that is amazing. I went from having, just Lori to a whole crew. And I'm like, that's great. And over time, there was one person that couldn't come over for Halloween because they couldn't get out of work. Some other people, they were having COVID situations at their school or where they worked, so they just didn't feel comfortable, traveling down. Fortunately, Jessica stayed healthy the whole time, and she drove, I want to say it was 8.5 hours from Milwaukee to come down and pace me. I'm just blown away by that. I mean, that is what an amazing person and what a great crew to just, we'll come down and do it.
It's pretty cool. And we actually do have her now.
Yeah, Jessica, just say hello if you can hear us, and just want to make sure that we can hear you. Jessica.
She might still be watching the live stream, which is delayed by about 20 seconds. But our mics are unmuted. Jessica's mic is unmuted. She may... We'll get it figured out.
Yeah, just say, Jessica, just say hello.
Yeah, Jessica, when you can hear it, just say hello. Yeah, no big deal. But I do want to point out before she jumps in here, so at this point, she had volunteered to help pace you a little bit. The longest run that she had run up to this point was 22 miles, and I think she was going to pace you for something like 17-ish miles.
Yeah, she said at first 17, and she goes, but I might be okay for maybe 24, 25 miles. I'm like, all right, that's great. I'll take whatever you can pace is fine. I'm just happy you're coming out. And so, yeah, she did a lot more than that. Because you want me to say, or
we'll let her. There she just muted her microphone. She's probably gonna try to get it back on again. But I do. Yeah, let's talk about your rest of your crew. So you had Jessica come down. She's gonna run about 17 miles with you. And who else did you have?
Yep, I had Lori, of course, down here, and then Lori's sister, who lives in Des Moines, Becky Shearson, came over to help. So the two of them did all the driving and setting up the aid stations and finding the places in the middle of the night, and met with me. And then when Jessica wasn't pacing, she was out, doing some crewing as well and helping out, running little errands if we needed to. Oop, I heard that.
Oh, yeah.
That was me, sorry.
Sorry, we just muted.
Jessica's having problems with Discord.
Which is totally okay. I know Jessica is also in the midst of driving the 8 hours back home. She had to pull over. So I also realized that she might be on the side of the road in a remote area. She may not have signal. So regardless, if we can get her, we will. But sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Well, in that case, yeah, she hadn't run anything. I think she's going to be running her first road marathon in November. I don't remember which one it is. So yeah, up to that point, she'd only done, like you said, about maybe 22 miles. I'm not sure, but she was so awesome to have there. Very motivating. She actually wanted to start earlier. We planned on a certain aid station. Okay, she's going to join me here. I think it was Shenandoah, so that she could do this 10-mile out and back, catch me through that time, and it would be dark in that. But the aid station before, she's bouncing around. Actually, 2 aid stations. She's like, well, I'm ready to go. I can go anytime you want. Just let me know. I'm ready to go. She was like eager and excited. And then the aid station before Shenandoah, she was ready to go. She had her tights on. I'm like, you're ready to go? She goes, oh yeah, I'm caffeinated up and all sugared up. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So she actually started, I want to say about 3.5 miles sooner. So it added another 7 miles to that part of the run. So we left her car there. She came when we ran down to the 50-mile turnaround and then came back. And while we were talking, we'd had several longer, and by longer, I mean like 6.8, 7-mile intervals. There were 3 big ones in a row because we had to cut out some of the aid stations, and it was the middle of the night. And I must have been mentioning her saying, yeah, I'm kind of worried about those. And she's like, well, I could probably jump into one of those for you too. I'm like, well, okay. I don't want to overwork you or anything. I want to make sure you get some rest or some sleep. She goes, oh, no problem. I'm having a blast. So she decided to jump in, and I don't remember exactly which one, but I was in, I think it was the bigger one, like the 6.8 miles. And I had maybe 2 miles to go. I didn't know it at the time, but I see a light start coming out. Like, well, all right, maybe I'm close to the trailhead. Because at that point, I'm not thinking all that great. I remember asking how many miles to the next aid station, and then I look at my watch and a minute later go, how many miles to the next aid station? I can't remember. So I'm like, well, I think it's this. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm just going to keep going. I'll hit them eventually.
Yeah.
I see this light coming up, and it's Jessica, and she goes, I have hot chocolate. Would you like hot chocolate? I'm like,
awesome.
Oh, hell yes. Because it was super cold. I was already getting real cold. We had bought something to heat water up, one of the little, camp stoves, but it had been so windy at the time. We're like, we can't set this up because everything's dry around here and windy, and I'm afraid if it tilts over, it's going to catch something on fire. So they finally reached an area where it wasn't windy, and they were able to do that. So I'm like, you are such a lifesaver. That was the best hot chocolate that I think I've ever drank. And I found out this morning or last night, I burned my tongue in 2 places, and I'm sure I did it drinking the hot chocolate, but at that time, I didn't care. It was just really nice and hot and delicious.
I think this was her first actual foray into crewing, into pacing, into any sort of like trail endurance event at all, which is, again, talk about diving off into the deep end, pacing and crewing someone for a 100-miler. But she seems to have it nailed. The fact that she comes delivering hot chocolate in the middle of the night is like an absolute boss move.
Yeah, no, that was so excellent. And I'm like, what'd you get any sleep? Oh yeah, I got a little sleep, but I feel good and I'm ready to go. And she paced me from there back in. I mean, it was another 20. I think at that point I was 20. I don't know, 30 miles maybe, something like that. So I was still quite a ways away, and I was getting close to where I could just kind of walk or hike fast. I did something to my right calf. I don't know what I did, but it started becoming really painful, which caused my right hamstring to cramp. So at that point, I was reduced to hiking. I tried a few times to do the run walk, but running was pretty excruciating whenever the calf would, but I could walk. So it was so nice just to have her walking along or hiking along with me during that time, just to kind of keep me company, get me out of my funk of having to walk, encouraging me. Because, at one point I'm like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I was just a mess. I'm like, this hurts so bad when I walk, and especially when I hit an aid station, you climb into the car to try to warm up because it's so cold.
To get hot. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you start moving again, it was just like it seized up. And, thank God I brought some poles. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to need them. I know I don't need them. I don't have big hills, but I'll throw them in just in case. And they were so helpful the last, 30 miles, just using those for extra support to be able to walk in. So, I could go ahead.
I was just going to say it's these dark moments, these moments where you are in excruciating pain. What did you use as motivation? Was it having someone like Jessica there by your side? Was there any sort of mantra that you were using? What sort of kept you moving forward? Because it'd be so easy to just like at the next stop, just stop at the car, get warm, and just be like, that's it. What kept you moving?
I thought about that a couple of times too. I would say it was the ladies encouraging me to keep moving. Hey, you're doing well. The pace is fine. I think that was it. I was like, I'm going so slow. I originally had kind of a 30-hour, like I'd love to do this in 30 hours, but I have no idea. I've never done this. Right. We've never done crewing like this. It was going to be a car aid station. So I ended up spending more time in the car. I got hypothermic once, so it took me a little while to warm up. But having just the encouragement, her helping me along, Lori telling me I was doing fine when I was like, I don't think I can go on. I'm hurting. I want to. And she goes, no, you're doing well. You can do this. She's every aid station, Bryan, you can do this. You're doing well. We can make this. You only have this much farther to the next aid station. So that was huge, having, the words of encouragement and helping out. And then,
go ahead.
Megan Roach, my coach, she always says, embrace the suck because it will get better. And I've heard that from several people. You're going to hit these really totally shitty down lows and they're going to suck. But remind yourself, it will get better. And so, when I was at my worst, I'm like, all right, this is going to get better. I'll just keep moving as long as I can move because I really, really, really want to finish this if I can.
Lori, your wife, is in the chat room, I think from another room in the house, but she says, I did push him out of the car at one point. I feel like that's definitely a good crew member is just making that extra push.
I don't know what's happening with Jessica. We're trying to get some audio in from Jessica here. We're just having some problems. So I don't know if maybe
it's got to be the mic input.
She might be somewhere where maybe there's not quite enough signal. It's turning green.
Jessica, we can't hear your microphone, which I'm guessing is either because it's through maybe a set of headphones, perhaps, or I don't know if you're in a car. It could be the car microphone. But basically, we're just not hearing the audio on our end. But we'll continue to try to get it situated and stuff like that while we have Bryan on. She ran 50 miles. So your pacer, Jessica, who had not run beyond 22 miles, had never paced or crewed anyone at an ultra ever, came from 8 hours away to pace and crew a stranger through the GR crew community, ran 50 miles with you, which is amazing. Did she, during this run at all, did you recognize her accomplishment? Like, did you have to remind her, like, hey, you are an ultra runner now? Like, how did that conversation happen between you two? Because that's a pretty amazing duo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jessica, she's a total badass. But she just, kept going. And then she mentioned, she goes, I think I'm going to hit like close to 50 miles. I'm like, whoa, like that is freaking awesome. You're going to do that because the most you've run, she hadn't finished a marathon before. And so she's turning around and putting a 50-mile effort in for pacing. I'm like, damn, that is so amazing. And so, we were kind of stoked for each other, cheering each other on for that. So that was, I was so thrilled to just be a part of that. I mean, getting my race at the same time, celebrating her first 50 miler. So just truly awesome.
Yeah. I guess there's so many accomplishments that happened this weekend. And of course, I want to recognize Jessica's contribution. A fantastic pacer. You two hadn't met beforehand. Your amazing wife and her sister as this incredible crew duo that's out there driving. And, part of running 100 milers is it's a group effort. It's not, as much as it's a solo effort of the runner, there's also this crew element and a pacer element. And like, no one gets sleep. It's not like anyone's out there just, I'm going to have like a 6-hour nap. It's everyone's pretty much awake and helping everyone get it done and dialed. Recognizing this whole crew and this incredible effort by this amazing team, but also Bryan, just the fact that you went out there on the Wabash Trace Trail over the course of the whole weekend, running into maybe just random joggers and bikers and stuff like that, but then also throughout the whole night where you're the only ones out there and you got it done. It is a huge accomplishment, and we're so proud of you, man. You did something truly, truly amazing. And both Kim and I really want to recognize that. I know the crew wants to recognize that. I think one of the questions that we have to ask, though, because I know stuff happened out there. What is some of the wild stuff that happened during your 100? Because this is always a question that we like to ask people who are taking on hundreds, whether it's
I've got a
hallucinations
couple.
or that. Bryan,
I had
share it with the crew.
Oh, absolutely. So I think we'll go in order because
there's an order. I love it.
In the row. Yeah. Well, I had asked Lori at the first kind of the major aid where I would kind of sit for 15 to 20 minutes. I kind of planned it every 25-ish miles to see how that would feel, especially going into Cocodona. So I said, well, if you could get me like a cheese pizza, that would be awesome. Amazing. I would love some pizza. So the town that we're going to meet at is Malvern. So she looks up Malvern, looks for the pizza places, and orders a pizza. Well, she was using GoDuckGo as her search engine, which doesn't tell you, it doesn't track where you're at or anything. So she ended up calling a pizza place in Malvern, Pennsylvania, and ordering a pizza from them. And then having to go back in like 15, 20 minutes and go, oh dear, I ordered from the wrong state. And having to call them back up and like, listen, we're not going to be able to pick up that pizza because we're not in Pennsylvania. We're in Iowa. I guess they were really cool about it and that. And fortunately, there was a little pizza place and they were able to pick up pizza and I had hot pizza. But I just love that. My crew loved me so much that they were willing to go to Pennsylvania to get me a pizza. I mean, how cool is that?
It's amazing. Mm-hmm. You ended up getting pizza, of course, not from Pennsylvania, but you did end up getting pizza, right?
Yes, and it was very good.
Okay, good.
So I loved it. So I got pizza. And then in Shenandoah, that's about 5 miles from the turnaround. So there's a section about a mile that you have to run along one of the streets just on the outskirts to this park where you pick up the trail again. And so we're on our way back, and I'm running back from the park over to the trail. Jessica and I are doing that, and this is at 1:30 in the morning. And so we got the lights on and everything, and we see 2 police cars come kind of whizzing by. And we're like, well, I wonder if they're going to stop us, or if they saw, they're going to the park because they saw a car there. Somebody called that. Well, one of them turns around and puts their lights on and comes back and parks near us. I'm like, well, all right, let's go find out. Tell him. So this guy comes out, and I mean, nice guy. He comes out and he's got his vest on, so he's kind of hanging like this. He goes, "Hey, how's it going? What are y'all up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, hi, how you doing? I'm running a 100-mile race, and we're at the turnaround. See, here's my watch. I'm at 54 miles. I'm trying to show him like, we're really, we're not drug addicts. I'm not, at a meth lab. We're actually doing this." He goes, "Running 100 miles?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Whoa, where did you start? Or when did you start?" And I'm like, "Well, 9:00 yesterday morning." He goes, "Holy cow, that's amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, I started at Council Bluffs, and we're now on our way back." And he goes, "Oh, so is that why there was a car out at the park?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was my crew chief and my wife kind of helping us out and getting that." And he goes, "Well, all right, well, good luck, stay safe, and have a great race." So, yeah, I can say I was pulled over by the police on my run.
What I think is great about that is you, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, viewers, listeners, is Bryan the first ultra runner to be pulled over during a 100-mile race? Not a crew car, because I've heard of that. That happens at Cascade Crest every year, but like an actual runner of an event being pulled over by the cops. I think it's amazing. I love that the cop was just sort of like, "This is weird, but good luck." Did he ever come back and check in on you? Did he ever drive by again or anything?
No, because you're that's right on the outskirts. So once you're back on the trail, you're out of that area. So never heard back from him, which is fine. But yeah, that was too funny.
I'm imagining the stories that he's telling back at the station of just, I was just doing my routine drive-by, and there's, this guy and this woman that were out there running, and they're running 100 miles on the Wabash Trace trail. Like, just the confusion and the weirdness of that.
Yeah, just glad they didn't ask for a drug test or anything. You got drugged for wanting to do this?
I did have a poppy seed muffin a couple hours ago. Is that bad?
Yeah, does that count? Yeah, I had cow pacers for about 10 minutes. I was running in this remote section, and I hear this. I don't want to say a stampede, but it sounded like a bunch of animals kind of walking and running alongside. I'm like, "What the heck is that?" And I turn, and my light illuminates a whole herd, like, I don't know, 40, 50 cows sitting there looking at me. And some of them are moving ahead. And what they would do is as kind of a group, they would go, they'd sit there for me. I'd start running ahead. They would then run ahead and then wait for me. And then I would catch up to them and start running ahead. And then they would run ahead. So like I had cow pacers for, 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, only in Iowa, this is an Iowa thing, I guess. And it was totally quiet, no mooing, no anything. So it was like silent, and I know it wasn't, what do you call it? A hallucination. There were really cows that were really there. So I had that, and I did have my first hallucination ever. So that was, because it was right at the end. It was about 4 or 5 miles to go, maybe a little less, and it had just started getting dark. So it was still kind of dusk. In the last few miles, start running through town, and there's some houses alongside and nearby, and some junk areas. And I look over to the left, and there's this guy sitting there with a blue shirt, and he's got black straight hair, glasses. He's got a mask, and he's bending over something. And I'm trying to see, and he's not moving though. I'm like, I don't think he's really there. And Jessica was there, and I'm like, "Jessica, I'm seeing this guy over there." And he's described what it is. Am I seeing things? And she goes, "Yeah, you're seeing things. There's a blue tarp there, and there's something else on the ground, but there's no man." I'm like, "Okay, good," because it looks so real. Because I'd heard about everybody having hallucinations, and I was feeling good. And it was toward the end of the race, but that was just so vivid and in detail. It was just like, whoa, that was really strange. Yeah,
you basically had the full 100-mile experience. The cow pacers is great. At least we know they weren't mewling.
Yeah.
Like that, not a fan of that one. At least I'm not laughing at my own joke.
We can talk to you about that after the show.
Yeah, we'll discuss that later. But
the hallucinations, that just takes you up another level, Bryan. We are so incredibly impressed and proud, and you are proof that anyone can get out there and set a goal and tackle that goal. And sometimes the goals don't go as planned. Sometimes you break your toe minutes before, days before a goal, and then that goal becomes something different and bigger and better. And maybe it takes a year, and then you set that goal, and then you accomplish that goal. We are just incredibly impressed and proud. And Man, what you did out there this weekend is a testament to you, your strength, your ability to inspire others and bring a community together. And a huge shout out to you, my friend. We are just blown away. In awe, my friend. 100-miler, Bryan Sands.
Great. Thank you so much. And like I said, I have to thank everybody and Ginger Runner group and Patreon crew, just all the support. We were getting constant. Jessica was reading me messages from everybody in the crew while I was running, and, you know, go Bryan, and lots of emojis and gifts and things like that. And that really helped a lot to get me through this race. So thank you to everybody else, or everybody out there. It really meant a lot to me and really helped me out.
I think you're going to inspire a lot of people. You already have. I mean, just your fact of running your first marathon at 50, your first 50K the next year, like you've already set this incredible you've set an amazing example. Oh my God, it took me forever to get there. You set this incredible example for people that they, age is just a number, and it doesn't matter if you've never run before or this is your first time running. You can set these incredible goals and you can accomplish them, because you've accomplished some incredible things, Bryan, and you've inspired so many people in the process. We are honored to have you on the show tonight, and honored that you would join us, especially with the lack of sleep and probably the lack of food that you've had to endure. But you are now a 100-miler, and what's crazier is that this was essentially a training run for the Cocodona 250. Does this make you more or less excited for the 250?
Ask me in a week after I've recovered. There are times that I think, yeah, Cocodona is so amazing, and during the run, I'm like, what the hell am I thinking? I don't know if I could do it. I'm like, okay, don't think about that now. And I told myself a couple of times, don't even think about Cocodona now. Let's get this done. Let's recover, because you're going to feel like garbage for a couple of days to a week after, and then you can go from there. I definitely want to give it a go if I can, and I'll know a whole lot more in a week when I've recovered. My body feels more like a body again, and my brain is less fuzzy. So, yeah,
the brain fuzz, I think, is a real thing, and that will take some time to sort of break through. We are going to end the main show here. We will have Bryan for our after show. Kim has a ton of questions that she's pulled aside from the main show here that we'll ask in the after show. We'll talk gear. We'll see if we can get Jessica back on. We'll see what we can do technically wise. But before we wrap up the main show, Bryan, it's been a while since you've been on the show, and I think it would be appropriate to do the quickie question quiz again, because I think this is your first time as one of our solo guests. So we can sort of we can do the quickie question quiz here, and then we'll also include our GR crew members of the week. So first, let's start with the quickie question quiz, Bryan. It's a very simple rapid fire series of questions. You're very familiar with it. Answer with the first thing that comes to your brain. When you are ready, give us a thumbs up, and we'll rage. What was your very first race?
Yeah, it was the Fools 5K in 2016 or so.
Favorite place to run currently?
I really enjoyed this trail. I either come here or the Cedar Valley Nature Trail that connects Waterloo to Cedar Rapids, about 54 miles, another rail trail.
Beautiful. Road or trails?
Trails, absolutely.
Bucket list race?
Ooh, that's hard. If I'm going to do Cocodona, that would be it. Otherwise, UTMB. I think it would be amazing to go out there and either do UTMB or CCC or one of those races.
Favorite running movie?
Well, Where Dreams Go to Die, of course.
That's the correct answer. Guilty pleasure TV show?
Ooh, I got to think of which one I like. I've been doing some Netflix. I don't watch a whole lot, but The Order, which was on Netflix, which is a series, kind of cheesy, but it just hooked me for some reason. So I've been enjoying that.
Favorite pre-race meal, or what did you eat before you took on the Halloween 100?
Yeah, I ate a bagel with some peanut butter and banana.
Post-race meal. Favorite post-race meal?
What did I eat? My appetite was like nothing. I had
probably not much.
Yeah, pizza's always great. I had spaghetti that was left over. I think I ate like 6 or 7 bites before I fell asleep. So.
And finally, what are your current running kicks? Or in this case, what did you run your 100 miles in?
Yeah, the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 20s.
Fantastic. Congratulations. You passed.
Yay, I passed.
Our wonderful guest tonight is Bryan Sands, the incredible now 100-mile finisher. It is such a cool thing to be able to say. Bryan has been a longtime supporter of everything that we do here and the crew at large. If you would like to join the crew, be a part of this amazing community, just head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. You can hang out with Bryan and the rest of the crew on our Discord server, and it is a great way to sort of real-time follow and chat with other members of the community. It's been our by far favorite thing that's kind of been in development the last couple of months here with the community. Amazing show. We're going to talk more with Bryan in our after show, again, for Patreon supporters. But of course, at the end of every episode, we do like to recognize members of the community in what we are calling our GR Crew Member of the Week, where we get to basically shout out members of the community. I think we've got some good ones, plural.
The thing is, I just couldn't find any that...
We don't know anyone from the community that did anything amazing this last weekend.
So listen, there was a lot going on this weekend. There was a lot of really special accomplishments. So it was hard to just pick a few, but a few GR crew members I just want to give a mention to. Obviously, Bryan, who's here with us tonight. Deb, who crushed the Javelina 100.
Deb Hamberlin.
And also Scout. And Scout did Destober.
Yeah.
Which was running the amount of miles of the day of the day.
Yeah. If it's October 7th, you run 7 miles.
Yeah.
October 20th, 20 miles. It adds up.
And I can't remember how many miles Scout ran, but I think it was 500 and something.
530 plus or something like that. It was an amazing number. So basically the last week of October, Scout ran, 20 miles, 21 miles, 22 miles, 23 miles. Like you're just knocking off huge mileages. So again, a huge shout out to Deb, Scout, Bryan, of course, Jessica.
And also I just wanted to do a massive shout out to Jessica as well, who we mentioned briefly in the show. We couldn't get the tech to work tonight to bring her on, but we will try either in the post show, or maybe we can do bring her on one of the Daily Brews or something like that as well. And also the one and only Lori Sands, who just is an incredible woman, and we're just delighted to know her. So
again, our guest tonight was Bryan Sands, now a 100-mile finisher, created his own 100-mile run along the Wabash Trace Trail in Iowa. Just an incredible accomplishment, getting out there this last weekend with the small crew, a pacer, and just getting the mileage done, ticking off those miles. We are so proud and honored to know this man, and again, a true inspiration to any of us who are looking to just pick up a project and do it. If you have a goal in mind, or even if you don't, let tonight's show, let Bryan be an example of what you can do, what you can set your mind to and accomplish. So we've got a lot of time left in this year. We've got 2021 just around the corner. This is a great opportunity to go, you know what? I've always wanted to run 100 miles, or I've always wanted to run an ultra.
5K.
Or a 5K. You can create your own route. You can make it hard. You can make it flat. You can do whatever you want, and just tackle it. Just tackle it. So we're going to move into our after show. We appreciate all of you watching tonight's episode. Episode number 332 is coming to a conclusion. We hope that you get out there, train as hard as you can, virtually race harder, and party the hardest. And don't forget, breathe. Breathe this week.
And vote.
And vote. We'll see you guys next Monday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ginger